tell people, like, at what age did you decide to move here to Israel? Why did you move here? And what that means to you today, like, to make that decision, like, so long ago, but then seeing the decision that you make in your teens, basically, to come here, and now you're a father, you're a citizen, you still doing reserve duty in the army. Like, a lot of things are very much in the Israeli culture and society. Give me the little bit of the scoop from the beginning and how you feel about it today.
So thank you, Ben, and thank you for having me on this cool podcast, because it is cool. People have been, like, walking by us, like, seeing for the past, like, 2 days what the heck we're doing, and it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming and doing everything that you do. Who am I? So I grew up in West Florida, to a normal Jewish American family. My father converted to Judaism after when he met my mother. He was already in the process. My mother is a nice, Ashkenazi European, from New Jersey, family, Jewish family. I came here to Israel in February 2005, officially to, like, become a citizen. But I fell in love with Israel when I was very young. I grew up, my parents, we went to synagogue, like a conservative synagogue every once in a while.
Were you in Israel before before you made Aliyah?
So I grew up in a youth movement called Young Judea, which is a Zionist youth movement, pluralistic youth movement. It's mostly now summer camps today and youth movement programs today. And I was very active. I was a counselor. I was on the regional board and things like this at a very young age. And the first time I came to Israel was in 2001, like a summer program, kind of similar to what we do in Colorado with IST. And it was in the middle of the second Intifada. And I'd never been to Israel. I didn't know any Hebrew. I had met some Israelis, like, with summer programs and things like that. But, like, I'd never really been to Israel. It was my first experience in Israel. We didn't go to any cities whatsoever, because everything was, there were suicide bombings on buses and crazy things like that. But I was very much intrigued by Israel. One, I had a great time with my friends and with the people I was with, and the Israelis that were with us, and the counselors and the land. And I very much felt connected, but I didn't really know what it meant. Went back to high school, went windsurfing all the time, and, had long hair. I was a cool high school kid. At least I thought I was. And then I came back for my gap year. I knew I didn't want to go straight to university. And a lot of my friends went to the American military at that time, 2003, 2004 time.
Yeah.
I decided I didn't really know what I was doing, but I really wanted to, like, learn and explore myself a little bit more. And the year course program, which is also through Young Judea, offered this opportunity. And I spent a year all over Israel trying to learn Hebrew. By the way, I was kicked down from, like, level 2 to level 1. I was, like, the only person ever. Like, no one ever thought I would learn Hebrew. My counselors that I'm still in contact with today, I write them now, like, in Hebrew WhatsApp messages and stuff like that, and they crack up at it. Like, they think it's the funniest thing ever. And I fell in love with Israel. I lived on a kibbutz for a while in the Arava area, working there in agriculture and electricity stuff. I learned Hebrew in university courses in Jerusalem, and I even worked in the fire department in Haifa as, like, a volunteer, But I really fell in love with Israel. There was Israelis with us in our group who became really close with me. And when I went back to the United States, I was 19 years old, and my good friend from the youth movement, we were working at one of the summer camps together, Camp Judea, and he says to me, sitting in a Taco Bell in Hendersonville, North Carolina, this is a true story, and one of my best friends says to me, why do we have to talk about being Jewish and talking about it quietly? Why are we afraid about being Jewish? Why are we afraid about speaking out about loving Israel? Because where we grew up in West Florida, he grew up in North Carolina, you didn't wear it on your chest. Yeah. You didn't wear Magen David. Everyone knew you were the Jewish kid in school, but, like, it wasn't like a thing. I've been harassed by people from the KKK, swastika signs on my driveway, fights in school because of it, things like this. And I basically decided at that moment that there's no reason that I should be afraid. I love Israel. I loved what I experienced there. And I felt very much a calling. I knew I didn't want to be in America at the time because I was very much connected to what was going on in Israel. And a couple months later, I made Aliyah with $200 and a backpack, pretty much. My parents were completely supportive, which is amazing. But I never thought about what would happen almost 17 years later.
Yeah.
But I've never looked back. Never looked back. I think this is, we were just having a discussion with some of the teens here at high school. Israel's not a perfect place. We have a lot of issues. I like to be a part of those changes. I like to be a part of that, what will happen in the future here for my kids and for their kids,
Do you think that change happens at the top or at the bottom first?
So I think it happens on both levels.
Okay.
I think first it starts off with the people. I think if we decide that we want to change something, on a minute scale, in my community, I live on a kibbutz, we want to change something, we change it. We want to push something new, we push for something new. We want to bring things to the government, we bring things to the government. It's very possible. But if you get enough people that are for something, you can get a movement behind it and push things forward. With that as well, if you get backing from the government to push those types of things, then you also get help from them as well. But it's not an easy thing. In Israel, everything is 2 steps forward, 10 steps back, and sometimes even more.
Yeah.
Things take time. But it does take time, and that's okay.
So you moved here in 2005. You did your army service, and then obviously it's very big here, like where you serve. So if you want to give a shout out to your unit, you can.
So yeah, I served in the paratrooper division. I was in the 101st Brigade. I don't know if I'm using all the terms correctly.
It's okay.
Yeah, I served 3 years all over Israel, on the borders of Israel, in operations in the West Bank, southern Lebanon, the Gaza Strip, things like that.
In the U.S. Army, it's very big. How many jumps do you have?
So I have 13 jumps.
13.
Which is a lot in Israel. Most people only do like 5 for training.
Yeah.
But we've also done some in the reserves. I'm still in the reserves. I'm now the lieutenant of my squad. So I have guys who served with me my time back in the day in 2005. And guys who just got out of the army like a couple months ago are 24 years old.
Yeah.
So it's but we also do frontline operations. Just recently we did in November. And we also have training and, staff meetings. It's very bizarre to switch from being at work and writing an email to you in Colorado, or, writing an Excel program or doing some type of educational program. And then all of a sudden I'm finding myself in, the army, doing things in the army, which is a very different type of mentality, as you know.